Hello there. In this geography lesson, sunset session, revision, exam technique, whatever we're going to call it, we're going to be looking at SEECO and the geography code and how we can use this to decode exam questions. Alright, so you definitely will have seen one of these in your geography lessons with your teachers. It's an issue evaluation matrix. Don't get confused by the term matrix, okay? It's just a table of information where more than one thing is going on. So, for example, here we got social, we got the opportunities and challenges next to each other. Two things going on at the same time. Alright, at the bottom, we have also got on this particular matrix some key geographical words that it's always useful to be able to articulate when you're speaking or writing your answers. But we'll come back to this in a bit. So, what is SEECO then? SEECO is the acronym we use when we're talking about social. So, social is to do with people. The next letter E is economic. That's to do with money and wealth. The next E is environmental, so that's natural habitats, that's air quality, that's what you can see around you. The C stands for challenge, so these are difficulties that people may face, okay? And the O stands for opportunity, so these are good things, people that make lives easier, all right? So, we got these different elements of SEECO, and we're going to use these different things together. And you might have noticed that I've put symbols next to everything. Okay, so let's have a look at this one. We've got the stickman symbol for social, and we've got the sad face symbol for challenge. Okay, if we put these two together, social challenge, that is something that's going to cause problems for people. For example, you live a long way away from a hospital and you're poorly. It's a social challenge because your health is to do with you. Or maybe there's not a leisure centre in your local town. Alright? So you can't go for a swim or to the gym. You could consider that a social challenge. Okay? The opposite to that is a social opportunity. So it could be that you live close to a hospital. We live fairly close to the Queen Elizabeth world-class hospital. If we need healthcare, we can go there. You're getting some education there, that's a social opportunity. Alright? The glorious town of Wednesbury's got a beautiful leisure centre with a swimming pool and a gym. Alright? I can go and have a paddle if I want to. That is a social opportunity. Next, we can put the dollar sign. We always use the dollar when we're looking at development and income around the world, the US dollar. But we tend to use this symbol also with anything to do with money, economic. Now, an economic challenge could be that the jobs in your area are really low paid, or there is no jobs, okay? Or simply not having enough money to be able to do something, okay? That could be, I've not got enough money to buy a Porsche, or it could be that a country has not got enough money to invest in roads, so there's nowhere to drive the Porsche even if they did have the money. Whereas the next two symbols we use together, economic opportunity, dollar sign, smiley face, these are good things. So it could be there's lots of jobs in an area, or the government has invested a lot of money in transport infrastructure, or a new factory opens and this creates the multiplier effect because it creates jobs and people have got more disposable income that they spend in the local, in other local businesses, and they pay tax so the government can invest. So that's economic opportunity. Next is the tree, which we use for the environment. So natural habitats, air quality, water quality, anything to do with the natural world around us. And if we use a tree and a sad face, okay, we're talking about environmental challenges. That could be habitat destruction, such as the tropical rainforest. That's creating environmental challenges. Or extreme weather due to climate change. All right. 3 foot of snow in the UK, alright, that would be an environmental challenge. Now this one, I think people often find the most tricky is an environmental opportunity. So if there's been an earthquake or something, how on earth can there be an environmental opportunity? Well, perhaps you could learn from what's happened, okay, when you're rebuilding. Okay, so you're rebuilding after an earthquake. You know now that the environment that you live in is very hazardous. Perhaps you're going to build earthquake-proof buildings. Or it might be to do with investment and regeneration. So in Birmingham, they have improved the environment of Broad Street with the new HSBC building. And they have put a garden on top of the Birmingham Library, a bit of urban greening, environmental opportunity. All right, so those are our symbols that we can use. Stickman or lady for social, $ for economic, tree for environmental, smiley face for opportunities, sad face for challenges. All right, and if you haven't got one of these, you could quickly draw one, or you could ask your teacher for a copy, and they'll be happy to give you one. Okay, so how can we decode images with SEECO? So whether this be an image in an exam, or in a lesson, or just anything you see around you, you can use SEECO to start decoding the image geographically. Okay, so here we got a photograph of an aftermath of a tectonic hazard. All right, so buildings collapsed. It looks like a rescue team. How can we use SEECO here? You'll notice for each one I've used colours. Okay, so it makes sense what I'm pointing at. So first of all then, social challenge, probably fairly easy. Okay, these people could be searching for loved ones. All right, injured people, dead people. Okay, effects on people, that is a social challenge. Now you might think, well, there's not many social opportunities, but if you look at these people, they're working together. Okay, there's a sense of community there. Also, they might be learning about like the hazard that's happened and help hopefully reduce the impacts in future. And if I was trapped under there and these guys saved me, I would see that as a social opportunity. All right. Next, economic challenge. Just circled that photograph, that part of the picture there. You can see the structure is collapsing. Somebody's going to have to pay to fix that. Okay, that's going to cost a lot of money. It could be someone's business. All right. If that's your business, I doubt you're going to be making much money anytime soon. Economic challenge. All right. Let's move my face a little bit. Economic opportunities. Now, again, this is quite tricky because obviously the majority of what's going on is challenges. But, you know, these people could have a business who specialise in removing rubble. Okay, or they could be surveyors looking at how to rebuild the area. Okay, so it could create employment in the future. Next is environmental challenge. Well, the natural environment's full of debris. It looks horrible. It's not very aesthetically pleasing. The environment there has been completely destroyed. And finally, again, quite tricky. Environmental opportunity, quite hard to visualise any, but when these buildings are rebuilt, perhaps they will use the knowledge, perhaps we could say a social opportunity, to ensure they're rebuilt to an earthquake-proof standard. Okay, so just from that one photograph, we can use the whole of the SEECO geography code. All right, and that's something you can have a go at. All right then, this question, you've probably done this about 20 times at your BHA or anywhere in the country, to be honest. But let's have a look. It says, study figure 5, a photograph showing an area affected by an earthquake in 2010. And figure 5b, a photograph showing an area affected by a volcanic eruption in 2006. All right, so earthquake at the top, volcano at the bottom. What's the question want us to do? Choose either an earthquake or a volcanic eruption. So at BHA, we look at earthquakes. So we'll look at the top picture. And then it wants us to assess the extent to which primary effects are more significant than secondary effects. Use figure 5a or 5b and an example you have studied. All right. So I'm not going to teach you the difference between primary and secondary effects. However, if you use SEECO, like we just did on the previous photo, on that photograph there, you could start talking about effects. Okay? You could talk about social effects, homelessness, economic effects, businesses destroyed, environmental effects, challenges, the natural environment's full of rubble. Okay? And, you know, and then, perhaps you've got 2 minutes left in the exam, you haven't got time to write a beautiful 9-mark answer plus 3 for SPAG. You could very quickly use SEECO and think, right, I'm just going to write some effects down there. And you're going to pick up some marks. Similarly, if you were doing the volcano question, but I'm not going to talk any more about that because we do earthquakes as our key tectonic hazards, and we look at Haiti 2010 LIC, and we look at Japan 2011 HOC. Okay, decoding exam questions with SEECO. Alright, I'm a big believer that you need to know what you're writing about in your exam questions. People often think this means writing a lengthy plan, alright, that eats into your time that you should be spending writing your brilliant answers. Okay? But using SEECO and just dual coding techniques more generally, you can basically write your plan in a few seconds. Okay? So, let's have a look at this lovely question here. It is, do hot deserts or cold environments? Okay? Now, start off. Put a line through hot deserts because we don't study hot deserts. We study cold environments. Okay, so this is not to do with SEECO specifically, more general exam technique, but we can put a line through hot deserts. We do the cold environments. Okay, and the main one we talk about is Svalbard, although you might talk about Alaska, Iceland, anywhere that's pretty chilly. Alright, so we know we're going to write about Svalbard. That's the first bit of our plan. Next, to what extent? Now this is not SEECO, it's more dual coding, but just while we're here, just whack TSE there, which is initialization for to some extent, because when we have a to what extent question or an evaluate question, it's always best to agree to some extent. This is where SEECO comes in. Environment. You know, you've got to write something about the natural world, and you can guide your thinking, plan your answer with a little tree symbol. Okay? Doesn't need to be as high quality tree as that. Just a stick with some lines coming off it is fine. What's next? Opportunities. We know, because we're geography code SEECO experts, that a smiley face can be used next to opportunity. So you've got to write some good things that are a result of the environment in Svalbard. I don't know, beautiful glaciers attract tourists. Okay, it's an opportunity, isn't it? Next is challenges. We know challenges are bad things. Super quick, sad face. What are the challenges, the bad things, the difficulties in this particular place, which is Svalbard? Again, I don't know, because it's below 0 degrees Celsius for majority of the year, everything is more difficult because you need an enormous amount of clothing just to leave the place where you're living. All right, try it. Put 5 coats on, go for a walk. It's going to be pretty uncomfortable. Now imagine you're a bricklayer trying to build a house. Okay, the fact that the ground's frozen, they need to put the services above the ground, which, you know, it's a challenge, isn't it? It doesn't look necessarily, you know, the best. It's not very aesthetically pleasing. And also, it just makes moving around more difficult because there's pipes everywhere. But they're just some examples off the top of my head. And finally, we can carry on dual coding. This is not in SEECO, but it might be something you want to consider. When you see the word development, getting richer, getting wealthier, all right, you can put a little arrow up. And if you're talking about economic development, we can use our SEECO geography code symbol of a $, and that will help you with understanding it's to do again richer and to do with the economy. All right, now there was 2 questions in here and this matrix here as well. It's up to you how you use this. You could just absorb that knowledge and hopefully improve your exam technique. But the best ones amongst you who really want to make themselves proud, okay, will get a geographical issue. Could be anything. Okay, it could be, I don't know, them building a new house down the road from you and fill in one of these matrices. All right? What are the opportunities? What are the challenges? Okay? Or you could watch the news, look at a particular issue. Perhaps it's conflict somewhere. Okay? War in another country. Are there any opportunities and challenges? Or you could look at the exam papers on the AQA website and try and do some of your own SEECO dual coding. If you see the word social, put a stick person. If you see the word challenge, put a sad face. Okay? I hope that's been helpful. Massive respect to you all. Speak soon.